Welcome to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Here's your host, Tim Wilkins.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. I'm your host, one and only Tim Wilkins, joining you. And today's topic's a fun one, guys. It's great. I hope you had everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. Fun, exciting. It was awfully steamy and stormy here in Dallas. I hope everyone's staying safe during this tumultuous storm season we're all having here in the South. But very first and foremost, this is the Indy 500, Coke 600, the double that wasn't episode. And kind of we're going to talk about it and kind of go into an overwhelming theme that I'm noticing with NASCAR is what I talked about previous episodes of hypocrisy. And so let's dive right into it, shall we? This past weekend was arguably is known as the motorsports community in the motorsports fandom or race fandom, as you want to call yourselves, as the race weekend that awesomely is known as Christmas in May for us motorsports fans. First beginning of the race is the F1 race in Monaco, or the Monaco Grand Prix. Then it goes to the Indy 500 at noon, and then it is the Coca-Cola 600 in the evening time. All that being said, ladies and gentlemen, really were disappointed. So the pageantry that was the Indianapolis 500, by the way, is by far some of the most important things you'll see in the racing community. And it is really the mecca of all, in my opinion, of all races. Over 500,000 people show up to the racetrack on race day, between the snake pit and turn 3, to the race itself, to the pageantry that is the month of May in Indianapolis. It is truly a fan event. And what we saw this past week, or this past month, really, was a man by the name of Kyle Larson, who is a NASCAR points leader, come into the IndyCar world, get inside that race car by Arrow McLaren, and really do a phenomenal job from start to scratch. Now, some fans can sit here and criticize Kyle Larson for a multitude of things, but one thing you cannot remove is his ability and his talent. Kyle Larson is a generational talent. There is a 1 in a million people that are like him. And I will say it candidly. It is by far some of the craziest things you'll ever watch. But first and foremost, if you watch the entire qualifying run the Saturday before, qualifies in the top 12, and then the following day, he gets into the Super 6. And the Super 6, he runs a little late for the North Wilkesboro thing. They start the North Wilkesboro race a little bit later because of him. It's an exhibition race. Not the end of the world. Things happen. Congratulations, Kyle Larson, for qualifying in the top 5 of your first Indianapolis 500. Now, weather kind of plays a factor into the Indianapolis 500. Unfortunately, not exactly everyone's cup of tea, but things happen every year. Weather is a factor in the Indianapolis. It's not the first time rain has affected the Indianapolis 500. But really what I want to talk about too is, Indianapolis Motor Speedway made a decision to go, hey, this is what we're going to do. In case of rain, we're going to rent out the Air Titans, and which are awesome air drying equipment. In the case of a rain situation, once they saw the forecast, that's when those pieces of technology or equipment was brought in. But did NASCAR forget about those too? And this is where I stem into the next part of the narrative here. And this is where I really, truly, as a fan of motorsports and racing, I lost a lot of respect for NASCAR this weekend, and for a lot of reasons too, including the situation that was with the Ricky Stenhouse situation, which I'll go into here shortly. So Larson runs the race in Indianapolis 500, makes, I would say, a very, very awesome run for his rookie attempt. Yes, did he make some kind of rookie errors? He sped on pit road and he spun the tires on a restart. It happens, ladies and gentlemen. Can't Things do happen. And actually, in the restart, he flipped. He even said it. He goes, I spun the tires. I shifted when I shouldn't have, and made it made a big mistake there. The speeding on pit road penalty. That's kind of where he owned that, right? So he owned it. But so takes himself out of contention. Joseph Newgarden wins that race, and it's Pato O'Rourke. And really, the last 2 laps of that race is the culmination of fandom at its best, because you hear the roar of the fans when Pato O'Rourke takes the lead as the first ever. He takes the lead, and then all of a sudden Joseph Newgarden just times it right. It's like the Fast and Furious thing. He's like, too quick, dude, and he sets into another gear. It was a phenomenal race. But so Kyle Larson shows up, or gets out of the car, does a couple of media interviews because he has to, kind of thing. And then with NBC, and then gets into a helicopter and a plane. But NASCAR forgets this part. That same storm system that hit Indianapolis is due to hit North Carolina. Just the way it goes. And that's what it did. So just as Kyle Larson was landing in Concord Airport on a private Hendrick plane and taking a helicopter ride on over to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where the 45th president of these great United States, was also enjoying the race. Mr. Donald Trump was joining the race festivities at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it was really a fun event. He was sitting there with Richard Childress and Richard Petty and having a great time, and it was a good race weekend. He gets there, it starts to rain, and they pull the cars down pit road, and they park them, and they don't restart the race. So Christopher Bell wins a rain-shortened Coca-Cola 600. And at that point, I said, fuck NASCAR. Fuck NASCAR. Because I understand it's raining. No shit. It's raining. But if Indianapolis and the Motor Speedway can make the accommodations, not only for the 500,000 or so fans that were in attendance, but also drop their blackout for the first time in a very long time, for fans around the city of Indianapolis to watch this race, then why couldn't NASCAR accommodate and restart the race? They have lights on the track. The biggest curfew pusher for Indianapolis, ladies and gentlemen, was the fact that there is no lights at the track. So they had to finish by sundown, which really was awesome that they finished at around, I believe it was close to 7-ish Eastern time. So they still finished on the same day of the race. It might have started 4 hours later, but it started. Also, NASCAR, you have all these rain tires. Well, why not make them useful? The forecast is the forecast. Like, I just don't understand. NASCAR, in my view, has lost a lot of fans for a lot of decisions that they're making, including the Ricky Stenhouse situation with Kyle Busch, which, by the way, this guy over here, the host of this podcast, I have more respect for Ricky Stenhouse now than I did ever in my lifetime, because basically that man was a grown-up, stand-up man and said, I'm going to go kick that man's ass when he gets out of the race car. That's what he said. Guess what? Kyle Busch shows up. They go wrist McCuffs. And he gets a $75,000 fine. Personally, I think boys will be boys. It's an exhibition race. Shouldn't have really been impacted, right? That's how it works out and plays out. However, the one thing that kind of disturbed me a little bit was the fact that there's crew members in there that are getting race suspensions for like 6 and 8 races. I'm hoping the race teams are, footing the bill a little bit for that, and they're not footing the bill directly. That's a race team or a race member. They were just doing what they were doing. And, that situation, I think, it's completely irrelevant at that point. But I will say this, going back to the Kyle Larson thing, as a NASCAR fan, there is no question in my mind that Kyle Larson is anything other than a generational talent. He is who he says he is. If it has four wheels, four tires, and is hitting any surface, he is a monster inside of a race car. And I hope his family understand. He obviously went through some turmoil there, some of the controversy that he went through. He made himself a better person, a better man out of it, and obviously he's got two kids. And I think he's got two kids now, excuse me. And he's got he's got kids, and he raises them right, and he does the right things. And I hope, his family look on him and say, he's doing everything the right way. Because I hope, he really is. He has a lot of young fans and and even old fans, including this young old hat here, that just go, damn, he's an amazing driver, including Jeff Gordon, who is the, you know, you know, you know, there was a reason why Kyle Larson is driving for Rick Hendrick, and his name is Jeff Gordon. Let's not take away anything from the awesome talent that is Jeff Gordon, as a talent, as a race car driver, but also as a business person, and also as a communicator of the sport. There's no question in my mind that he had something to do with Kyle Larson coming over to Hendrick Motorsports after that controversy, and even in this Indianapolis 500 deal with Arrow McLaren, and did everything. I cannot say enough how awesome it truly was to watch this weekend. Minus the Formula One. If you're a Formula One fan, go fuck yourself. Seriously, go fuck yourself. That shit is not Formula. It's not F1. It's G1. That is the most terrible, mind-numbing racing of all time. It is boring to watch. There's no passing. That's why I can't understand why it's even going to Las Vegas. Like I just, what a terrible, terrible racing. But truth be known here, the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600, so Justin Allgaier, I think it was Allgaier. Yeah, it was Allgaier, I think. Obviously ran all those laps in the 5 and the 600. Listen, Kyle Larson lost the points lead. I think he's in third now in the points. But overall, I think he did well, right? So let's get that out the way real quick. I think he's going to recover from that. Now, the waiver the controversy, right? Let's dive into that. There's some people on the interwebs, and I'm not going to name any names, that work for Dirty Mo Media that did an interview that I just don't understand. It kind of went like a full Skip Bayless, I regret my decisions type thing. But why? Why wouldn't Kyle Larson be qualified enough for a waiver? Oh, well, he raced for a competitor. Really? So have other NASCAR drivers, Kurt Busch, Tony Stewart. Okay, let's kind of go through this again, shall we? Or are you guys forgetfulness of history? It seems like it's good for thee, but not for me type bullshit that you just can't stand the hypocrisy at its finest. And that goes in NASCAR media. And shout out to Mr. McGee, Marty and McGee, because McGee was amazing on Pat McAfee on Friday. I can have him on television every single day. He is phenomenal. But Chase Elliott had 2 waivers during the year that he was injured. He was suspended and he was injured. Did we forget about that? I guess so. The man's going to get a waiver, and the man's going to make the playoffs, and the man's going to race himself into a championship if he's worthy enough to be in a championship. So please, for the love of God, everyone just shut up and let the man race out the season. It is literally May. We have, 8-9 weeks left before the end of the regular season. So can we act like adults here? Or do we forget what we're talking about? Like, we're not racing for peanuts here. We're racing for a championship. And if it wasn't good enough, Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon would have told him to get on the damn plane when it was raining outside in Indianapolis. They didn't. You know why they didn't? Because they knew that Kyle Larson sitting in an Indy car will draw more eyes to the sport into the Hendrick Motorsports number 5 car than ever before. And NASCAR is also going to remember that as well. So moving forward, I think a lot of fans need to kind of get their heads so far out their ass and actually pay attention to the sport that they're loving and they're following. That being said, very interesting to see what Kyle Larson does in next year. I think Arrow McLaren did a hell of a job setting him up for a beautiful race car. Tony Kanaan, who is an amazing human being off the track in the sim racing community as well. Big shout outs to TK and the entire, such a nice guy, honestly, and everybody. And it really was a good race. Indy 500, I love watching Indy 500. It is an amazing event that I've been to. I think I went to the 2016 or 17. It was 17 I went because that was the year that Mike Pence went, I think. And it was a great time. And I recommend every single fan around the world to go to the Indianapolis 500 and do it not once, but do it more than once. So that being said, everybody, I appreciate you joining me on this follow through, this commentary, this monologue, as they say. We're gonna try to do some more episodes, monologue-ish. Chris has some commitments that are making it a little bit challenging for us to schedule a time to record, but we'll get around to it again on some big topics. But on the topical ones, I guess I'll do some monologues and I'll talk about my feelings on it, and hopefully it all hits the square on the head. And we'll go from there. I hope everyone stays safe during the southern storm season. Have a great week. Next week's my birthday, first week of June. And I'm going up to the great state of Wisconsin to partake in some beautiful weather, some freshwater lake, and some golf. And I hope everyone has a great week. And have a good time. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. Feel free to follow us on social media via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.